What's up, family? Welcome to the Overcoming series. Once again, I am really excited about this series. Listen, on Monday, we had Miss Melissa talking about overcoming insecurity. Yesterday, we had Bree talking about overcoming hardships. On today, we've got Leon or Cortez talking about overcoming self-doubt. So look, we're going to jump right in on today. I'm going to bring Cortez up. What's up, bro? How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Jessica?
Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up?
Not much.
What's up, man? Listen, we've been having really great conversations so far in this series, and I like to jump right in, simply because it's a quick lunchtime conversation. So I really want us to jump right in. And so, tell us about you. Tell us about your overcoming story.
Oh, oh. Um, I've definitely enjoyed. I did get a chance to watch
Yeah.
Melissa's episode, and I really resonated with some things that she was saying. I enjoyed her. My name is Leon Winters. Many know me as Cortez, which is my nickname that I've went by for a very long time. So if you hear Leon or Cortez, it's both the same. I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I
Okay.
moved to Lafayette about 22 years ago on a music scholarship to UL. And
Uh-huh.
so a lot of times people just know me as a musician, and not that I'm actually a licensed therapist also.
Yeah.
Um, but but when I talk about self-doubt, I think about so many things that I've been through in my childhood, and just growing up, and just really not believing in yourself that you can get it done, or just those things that come around that says, oh, you can't do it, or those messages oftentimes as men that we don't ever talk about.
Right.
We're scared, we're fearful of those emotions that might pop up, or just
Uh-huh.
we've never really dealt with it. But like self-doubt, for me growing up, especially as a musician, as you know um, even as a student, I was always academically intelligent, but I always thought I could never make the grade. I would not pass the test. I wouldn't do something.
Wow.
I would get something wrong.
Mhm.
And it always turned out well. And so I've always asked myself, like, where does this self-doubt come from?
Mhm.
But pivotal points for me were people in my life that really was like, hey, keep it going. Um,
Mhm.
I talked about some of the, off camera, we talked about some of the mentors that I had growing up. And, the thing that we shared in common, Larone, uh,
Yeah.
how far he pushed me,
Ooh.
and, being the assistant director at Destiny of Faith for quite some time, and those conversations that we had. And, a lot of times people don't realize that when you're getting that external lift up, it's not that pretty, it's not that pretty warm package sometimes. It's that,
Mhm.
hey, listen, you already have it inside of you. So why are you doubting yourself when other people believe in you? And
Right,
what,
right,
how do you show history that your history shows that you can do it? So,
right, right.
but I look back on like things I've done in my life. I'll be 40 this year. So,
What?
um, but
For
as a musician, I played all parish.
Uh-huh.
In the marching band at UL, and always people are like, man, you play so well, you've done these things. But in my mind, I'm like, that was 100 measures of music, and I
Uh-huh.
missed 2 notes, and nobody noticed, but I sat on those 2 notes. You
Wow.
didn't do it. You didn't. It wasn't perfect,
Uh-huh.
so it wasn't great. You missed a note, and so it wasn't great. And so a lot of times I doubted myself, and a lot of times that prevented me from getting started.
Wow.
Um, and we don't talk about those things, because if we never get started, we get nothing done. And if we get nothing done, well, then we don't have anything to show anyone.
Wow.
And now reaching the pinnacle as a husband, and as a father, there, listen, when I talk to other men, or, even when I'm in counseling sessions with other men, and, we talk about the self-doubt, and it was like, where do we go to talk about this? Like
Wow.
the fear of what would happen, if you didn't get these things done with your family, with your children, or anywhere. And you like, so even though I'm the therapist, sometimes it's kind of like, man, it just feels good to know that everyone experiences these things,
Yeah.
and you're able to absorb that. But I guess we got to talk about, like, how do we counteract and fight self-doubt, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So my mom growing up, my mom is a fighter like no other. If you've ever met my mom, she's pretty short, like five
Mhm.
five. And but she raised 4 boys in North Baton Rouge, a not so great area. And so you talking about someone that has to overcome like self-doubt, or push people into directions.
Uh-huh.
My mom was very pivotal in that. And you know, they gave me the nickname Old Man at a very young age, because a lot of times when I doubted things, you know what I do? I'd go research it. I'd go look it up. I want to make
Uh-huh.
sure it's perfect. And so, that transition into life, my wife now calls me Mr. Facts, because she's like, you just like to look everything up. But
Wow.
it's being uncomfortable with that self-doubt. Like, if
Yeah.
I can show myself approved, or study, or look at something,
Wow.
then I know how to fight that self-doubt. So,
Mhm.
like, punch the self-doubt in the face. If I'm gonna mess it up, I say this all the time. If we're gonna mess it up, we're gonna mess it up at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no room for self-doubt to take place if we start
Mhm.
putting forth the effort in the things that we want to do.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
That's good.
I mean, my self-doubt story kind of moves in and out. And so now, as a therapist, as a business owner, father, husband,
Mhm.
it's still there. And I think that we do not have the conversation, especially as men. We
Wow.
don't have the conversation about the emotions that come with self-doubt, the
Mhm.
sadness, the insecurities that pop up, the feelings of feeling overwhelmed, just not being able to streamline it into something that
Mhm.
says you're gonna make it. You have history that shows that you've made it, and your actions show that you make it. And I know that you talked about like a scripture verse or something like that.
Mhm.
My favorite scripture verse is kind of one my pastor, um, Pastor Lido Maxey, growing up in Baton Rouge, he had it on his car, as his license plate, Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
And of course we know that verse, but I love that verse.
Mhm.
And even talking to him growing up, he always said, seek ye first. He always said these things. And so when there's a thinking of self-doubt, you're working with God, you're working with yourself, and you're
Mhm.
coming up with these things that are working for you. And many people will see your success, but never see your struggle.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, and so when people see, oh, you've made it. Well, you don't understand that that might have been a gift that you sat on for a year, 2 years,
Mhm.
because you doubt anybody would like it. You
Wow.
doubted that anybody would say, oh,
Mhm.
this is, a good example. So I started my practice about 6 years ago. And once I started my practice, I've always had a business background. Like I've, as a traveling musician and things like that. So I understood business. But when I went into practice, there
Mhm.
was a birthing process. There was a process of where this was being built. And so I studied a lot of things about the business aspect of a private practice.
Mhm.
What does the billing look like? What is the structure, organization? But it was through my own fear. Like
Wow.
I didn't want to build this practice and it goes down. So it was me literally chasing self-doubt and trying to punch it in the face. Okay, well, you're saying that if the billing is the hard part, like I was researching like what people thought the hard parts of private practice was. So people said it was the billing. So I
Wow.
researched everything there was to learn about billing. Like I literally morning, noon, and night. I would study billing, watch YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And so when I got to the part where I opened my private practice, people were like, man, you understand the billing so well. I mean, you're so smart at this. And I'm like, you don't understand. The only reason I did this is because I did not want to believe I could not. So I
Wow.
am literally chasing self-doubt down in like YouTube video, punch self-doubt in the face. You have a CMS 1500. You have to learn all the modifiers. You have to learn all the diagnosis code. You have to learn all of this thing. And so then I would pay to take like a class that learned the billing. But
Yeah.
guess what? What happened is when I opened my practice, people was like, hey, can you teach me billing? And I was like, I don't know. Yeah. And so what happened
Wow.
actually, what birthed through that process was we started teaching billing classes to other private practices.
Wow.
And so when you talk about those patterns of self-doubt, for me, I've learned that that study, that work, and really just challenging the idea of self-doubt was something that's going to get you to where you need to go.
Yeah.
Like, and so it was a fear. Like I didn't want the practice to fall. Walking away from a job that no matter what you do, they're going to give you a check every week to walking into, you know, private practice, entrepreneurship, where it depends on people coming to you.
Mhm.
Now, I have been working in the community for since I moved here, really. And so I was like, well, man, people ain't gonna want to come see me in private practice.
Mm.
And I opened up, and 2 hours into opening up, I was full. And I've been full for 6 years.
Wow.
But it was self-doubt. And so it was self-doubt. But how do you take self-doubt and you say, I want to make sure what I do is
Wow.
decent and in order and integrity,
Mhm.
and not panic and have an anxiety attack in the process.
Right.
And so, you know, my overcoming self-doubt was really a catalyst for me being a studier of the things I needed to do, for
Mm.
me being a researcher of the things I needed to know, and understanding that once I've studied and researched, I've gotten that go ahead from God. I don't that's all I can do. That's
Yeah.
the best that I can do.
Yeah.
And there are failures along the way. But
Uh-huh.
one thing I've learned is I was never really one of those people that were afraid to fail, but I was always one that doubted whether or not I could even do it.
Ah, wow.
Because I mess it up at 100 miles an hour. The
Mhm.
getting started part was like, am I gonna get started or am I gonna sit on the sidelines and wait? And when I learned those things about myself, that's when I learned to research. And really and truly, you know, people will never know those struggles. People will never know if you feel like you can do it, if you feel like, because that's that internal battle that many people won't see.
Right.
And so
That's good.
that's the majority. I mean, it might be a little bit over the place, but
So no, that's so good. And Candace put in the comments, she said that getting started point, man, and that's what I wanted to point out in your story. You said that doubt prevented you from getting started with so many things.
Oh, look,
Like,
that's Miss Charlene on there.
you see, yeah, like Charlene, Miss Starla, they're all watching. But it's that doubt prevented you from getting started. What do you have to say to people like in this moment, that they're in this place and they're like, I don't want to start this I don't know, this podcast. I don't want to write this book. You know, I want to do it, but I'm not good
Because
enough.
see,
What do you like? What? Yeah. Uh-huh.
the hard part about that is that so many people be like, just go ahead and do it. Mm. I don't think that we check the emotions that are in place because you can get started, but if you have a lot of self doubt, it's not going to motivate you to get through it. Because
Mhm.
what you're going to do is you're going to get halfway through it. And you're going to be like, this is garbage. I walk away. You
Wow.
have to confront what's preventing you from getting started. Like if
Mm,
you're saying it's self doubt, well, how do we manage self doubt in a way that says, I'm comfortable to the point to where I want to see this through? And
mhm.
so part of it is, like I said, for me, moving through that self doubt was let me go back and research and make sure I know what I need to know.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Let me make sure I have everything that I need to have. You know, if
Mhm.
I'm writing a book, is my outline tight? You know, did I do my research? Did I have these things? And
Yeah.
what you'll realize is when you go back to the original source of where you started, you
Mhm.
get more than what you bargained for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like now, when I started my private practice, I'm like, for me, I walked away from the school system after working at the school system for 5 years.
Uh-huh.
And I just started my private practice. And I was like, you know, I just want to work for myself.
Uh-huh.
Me, the wife, and the kids, I'm going to work for myself. I'm going to have my own schedule, do what I want to do. And, but fighting that self doubt created so many things. Like,
Mhm.
I learned the billing. So then people were like, can you teach me billing? Oh, can you teach me billing? I'm like, so I
Mm.
literally went back and created a structure for
Uh-huh.
insurance billing. You
Yeah.
know, I was always a public, you know, I was always a speaker. I talk to people. I'm a very extroverted person.
Uh-huh.
And so I've always done some trainings.
Yeah.
But guess what I did? I started doing so many trainings around billing that I was studying the presenters. I was
Wow.
studying like how they presented and how were they effective.
Uh-huh.
So then someone was like, "Hey man, can you come talk to us about mental health and wellness
Wow.
and for our company?"
Uh.
Then guess what happened? I started getting booked for speaking engagements. So it's like you were in the process of studying, you're gonna get way more than what you went in for. Because I originally started with the process of just, hey, look, I'm gonna run my private practice. I get to work for myself, you
Uh-huh.
know. And so then, even then, people were like, "Hey, look, you know, we need some, you know, can we come intern with you?" And I was like, "Sure." I mean, we need help, you know. And then that blossomed into a full group practice where we have 7 therapists on staff. And you know, but now even then we're able to reach and help more people.
Mhm.
So now remember, all of this started with the idea of just starting a part-time private practice.
Mhm.
But I needed to make sure that whatever I did not let self-doubt have a place in
Right.
growing.
Yeah.
And so as I studied, you know, as I understood, as I went back to the drawing board, I learned more. I actually even wrote a book about starting your own private practice. So
Wow.
it's like, but here's the thing: people don't understand. That book came from creating an outline to make sure I had everything, and
Mhm.
so I would write a bunch of notes. Okay, well, what do I need? You know, and so organizing the business structure. And so I just had notes of what I needed to do,
Mhm.
and so then I just started jotting down my thoughts. I'm a journaler that likes to write down what I think about,
Mhm.
and so you know, one of the things in the book that I talk about is turning that dream into an actionable thing.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's really what it was. And so it came from the idea of I dreamed of being in a private practice. I didn't dream about being in a private practice. I dreamed of having a flexible job that allowed me to come in and out and do whatever I needed to do.
Mhm.
And so then private practice was one that really allowed that. And so I
Mhm.
would go back and I would write down that dream. I would study that dream. What do
Mhm.
I need? What
Yeah.
do I have to have in order to make this happen? You
Yeah.
know, and what I realized is I had like 10 pages of stuff written.
Wow.
So then I was just like, well, I'll just go put it in a book. And so anytime I do the training on starting your own private practice or
Right.
even my entrepreneurship trainings, I'm like, here, I have a book you can read. And they were like, how did you write this? I'm like, I don't think y'all understand. You don't understand the process. This
Uh-huh.
came from writing of just studying, removing that doubt. If this is the best that I have, then I can accept this on this terms.
Uh-huh. That's good. That's good. You guys, if you have any questions for Cortez about, his journey overcoming self-doubt, feel free to put it in the comments or email me if you would rather stay confidential or anonymous. You can definitely do that. But I really like I love the fact, like in your story, how you said that this self-doubt was a catalyst to you being a researcher. How
Mhm.
at first the self-doubt made you shrink back and research it because, like, oh, I want to make sure, I got this. But now it's like what's feeding your purpose. You know what I mean? Like it's that research is like what's feeding your purpose now. And I just thought that's so cool how that was birthed. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, my wife was on the line, she would be like, yeah, he Mr. Facts. But it's really it's been so ingrained in me that
Uh-huh.
like whenever I have these things of doubt, that just means I have work to do. Now, on the
Mhm.
other side, you know, I don't think that self-doubt is necessarily something that means you have to go do it. Because
Mhm.
sometimes you might have to think about like, no, those are some things that are not for me. That are some things that doesn't fit. So I think the self-doubt offered a place of analyzing when I can challenge the self-doubt, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
when like say for instance, if I doubt that I can do something, well, do I want to do this? What is the benefit or the beauty of me doing this?
Mhm.
How does this make, how does this make an impact in my life? How does
Mm.
this make an impact in the lives of the people around me?
Wow.
And
Uh-huh.
so I think that the self-doubt offered a place of analyzation or just a way to analyze what's going on with you.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you'll think about like, this is not my venue.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
That's
And
awesome.
that doesn't mean self-doubt win more than you have identified key strengths and boundaries that you need in your life to move forward.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I love how, so listening to your story, you started talking about analyzing this self doubt and really looking at it. And so, speak to someone right now that's just having trouble turning their self doubt into confidence.
Well, people always say if you never get started, then you never have anything to, address. I personally think that you have to really look at why is this self-doubt here?
Hmm.
Why am I experiencing this? Is it a warning sign?
Hmm.
Because one of the analogies I use in my therapy sessions is if you open that door, there's a snarling mountain lion on the side, you won't think twice about opening it.
Yeah.
Now, if there's $1 million on the other side of that door and there's a snarling mountain lion on the side and you got a 12 gauge shotgun, well, you're about to take that mountain lion out and get the shotgun. So you have to analyze whether it's worth the drive, whether or not it's worth the move, whether or not it's worth the time.
Hmm.
And so if you can analyze whether it's worth the time, then you put in the diligence and the work to get what you need.
Hmm.
Now, am I going to open the door and shoot a mountain lion and there's no $10 million over there? Nope, I'm going to take the window out. But if there's $10 million behind me, me and that mountain lion going to have to get at it. And so that's the part of challenging self-doubt that that is that is opportunity, because
Hmm.
self-doubt comes in and it's natural anxiety. And so
Hmm.
people think when we experience anxiety, no, anxiety is things that keep us safe. That keep us from thinking we can go fly by jumping off a cliff with a kite on our back. You know, but it's a core source of anxiety. So some anxiety is good, but some anxiety tells us you might need to march with reservation. You might
Wow.
need to march, you need to go, you need to do what you need to do. But it also sends you back to the drawing board to
Yeah.
analyze why this should happen.
Analyze. Hmm.
And so how do you evaluate yourself? How do you give feedback? In the social work field, we might do program evaluations on services and things like that. The one thing we analyze is what we're putting in is, are we getting it out, and is it acceptable and the right thing to do? That's
Hmm.
no different with us as humans.
Yeah.
What
That's.
we're putting in, because you might have some self-doubt about starting that practice, starting that business, doing something else,
Hmm.
but you might realize that in that self-doubt you yield that it's not time,
Hmm.
but this is preparation.
Wow.
anytime I work with people who started businesses or things like that, one of the things I did is I was asking, where's your foundation and where's your preparation? Because if you haven't done that, but you've got the call, somebody said, hey, look, just open this business and we're going to work it out. Those are not successful businesses, or not all the time.
Yeah.
But if you have a foundation and preparation, you have something to stand and build upon.
Wow.
And so self-doubt kind of, to me, signals prepare. Prepare to do it, prepare to let it go.
Yes. That's good. That's good.
So, you know, when you're thinking about, you know, anyone that wants to start it, like, you know, I work with people in plenty of industries that are looking to start businesses and things like that. The first thing I ask is where your preparation. And so when I say preparation and you get into the technical sense of a business, is do you have an estimated amount of money you need to make? Do you have an estimated service cost? Do you have an estimated delivery time? What is your time frame? What is your service deliverables? How do you have all of these things in place to say that when someone comes to me and this starts, then I can evaluate what I can evaluate the structure that I've created and make adjustments based on the structure that's around me. Now, I'll give you a good example. You know, when I first started, people would just call in and we would add them to the schedule. Well, that's how we started 6 years ago. Today, people can schedule their own appointment online, but I had a structure to deal with the way clients came in the beginning, and we have an opportunity to refine, reset, redo it, analyze how everything works until you get to a place where this works. And remember, where you start now is definitely not where you're going to finish. And there's always the need to prepare. But if you had a foundation, you're tweaking instead of trying to build a house while people are living in it.
Wow. I like that you said where you start now is not going to be where you finish. A lot of times we see the big picture. We see Z, like, and we're at A, and we have this self-doubt because we're like, oh man, Z looks so good. I just want to be at Z, you know, and not go through this process of A, B, C, D, you know, and that's so key. Somebody asked a question in my email, and you started answering it actually because it's similar to what I asked you, but they also have a second piece. The first says, what are some tools you can use to turn self-doubt into confidence? It's easier said than done, but what tools or resources can help with getting that process, with making progress in that area? Like, do you have
self-doubt into confidence? I think you have to take one start and look at why self-doubt is there. Why do I not believe in this? You know, why do I not believe in what I'm trying to do?
That's that analyze.
And so if we can look at why do I not believe that this is great? Well, then you have to make a decision of how you're going to combat that self-doubt. For me, it's always preparation.
Yeah.
It's always preparation. So if you're looking to buy a car, you know, and you're like, oh Lord, I can't afford that. You know, I can't afford that right now. I don't really know how I'm going to get through to it. Well, then you prepare yourself for it. Because you might only be able to afford this car right now, but with certain preparation, you can afford this car.
That's
so
good.
The self-doubt is there, but for me, I always say, analyze the anxiety, create a source of preparation. And we're talking about doing things in life. We're not talking about like if you experience naturalized anxiety, you know, things like that. You know, because at some point there's where you say, well, I might need to talk to a therapist because that anxiety could be related to somewhere else. That self-doubt can come from something in your childhood. That self-doubt can come from plenty of other places. But we're talking about surface level. If you're searching to move from an area of self, and I don't think, and see, a lot of times we're trying to silence self-doubt. But the reality is we're human. And I think that's a naturalized emotion or feeling that we experience. That we can always challenge with preparation, with key, you know, and ensuring that we're being the best that we can be, the best person that we have in front of us. And the confidence comes from studying to show thyself approved. You know? Now, Jessica, me and you are both musicians. Me and you have been some places and you know these people didn't practice that song.
I was about to bring that up. when you said that, like when you said analyze anxiety and create a source of preparation, I related that to our music that we do.
Mhm.
You know, like if we get up there and we have to play something or sing something, and we get self-doubt, we get anxious about it if we have not prepared for it.
You
And it's
know,
the same thing with other situations in life. A lot of times that self-doubt and that anxiety comes, we're not prepared. Now, granted, there
yep,
are some things we can't prepare for in life. There's just some things we can't. But when it comes to doing these certain things or overcoming a thought
mhm,
of insecurity and all that stuff, some of that can be
mhm,
combated by you simply taking some time
yeah,
to prepare
and
for it.
prepare.
So good. You
You
better
know,
speak more.
and I think, and I think that what we don't realize is we're trying to fight off natural emotions versus understanding why they're present. And so,
Uh-huh.
anytime I work with clients, the first thing is, why is that present? What brought us to this point?
Wow.
And so people like, well, just start your podcast. You're like, oh, you didn't study, so you don't know how to set up the background. You don't know that, and your podcast is not effective. And you're saying, oh, well, I don't have people watching, or I don't have these things happening. But what happened is you just listened to people that said, oh, just go ahead and jump.
Right.
And you did not
Hmm.
combat a lot of that self doubt because you're like, well, we'll just kind of figure it out as we go. And what happens is you're now living in a house that you didn't prepare the foundation for.
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
And so anytime I'm working with individuals, anytime I'm working with people who are looking to grow their businesses, the first thing I ask is, where your foundation, because this is where you fight the self-doubt, because
Wow.
I have a framework that I can go back to when something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And
That's
things will go wrong. This is a naturalized human thing that we're doing,
hmm
and things will go. There's no part, if life was going to be as perfect and right, people would not have all these negative emotions. We
hmm
experience this self-doubt, because there are things in our life that didn't go right. And we're like, if this didn't go right, well, then this might not go right. This might not go right. This might not go right. But really and truly, what we're doing is looking at this self-doubt that we're experiencing and saying, how can I prepare?
Yeah.
And what areas are we experiencing self-doubt? We've talked about doing things, but even self-doubt in a relationship.
Yeah.
Am
Uh-huh.
I a good husband? Am I a good wife? Am I a good provider? Am I a good person? Am I a good servant of God? Am I all of these good things that we're doing? And
Mhm.
there's a self-doubt that's going to be there, because the thing is if we just feel like we're doing everything right, then we'll never have a place for self-examination.
Mhm.
I never want to get to a point where I feel like I'm a perfect husband. I always ask myself, hey, look, I don't know if I'm being the best husband that I can be.
Mhm.
It'll be 12 years next month. And I'm like, am I being the best husband I can be?
Mhm.
I'll probably miss something. So that
Yeah.
tells me to check in with my wife. That tells me, hey, look, did you do something special? Did you do something nice?
Yeah.
And so in so many different areas, I think we try to take self-doubt and turn it to this grossly negative thing when it
Mhm.
said there's work to be done.
Mhm. Wow. That's
There's
good.
preparation that needs to be done.
Mhm. That's good. That's good. Are there any specific resources like books? I know it's probably a million of them you could throw out there, but anything maybe any book suggestions or podcast suggestions that you might give your clients or something like that? Like,
One book that I read that really stood out a lot was this book, and I'll never forget this. I talked to this guy. He came and spoke at Lafayette Parish School System when I worked there.
mhm.
His name is Dave Weber. He wrote this book called Sticks and Stones.
Okay.
It's a really good book. And he talked about the me's, the me I am, the me I want to be, the me that other people see, and the me that people think I am. And so he
Mhm.
talked about like the four me's, and it's a really, really, really good book. It's a very
Mhm.
short book, but when it talks about like establishing who you are, establishing your identity, establishing what you want to do. It's the name of the book is Sticks and Stones by Dave Weber. And that's the first book that I can think of like right offhand. Um,
Okay. That's okay.
and and there are plenty of other workbooks. I mean, there's plenty of things. Of course, when you said that, my mind would just go completely blank. I'd email you some
Okay,
more.
that's
Um,
totally okay.
but there's another guy. No, he wrote that for men. A good friend of mine, Danny Ross, he wrote a book called The Messages We Keep. That's a really good book.
Okay.
Really, really good book. Um, but he talked about like self-understanding,
Mhm.
reflecting on who you are. But I think he wrote that for men.
Okay.
Um,
Messages we keep.
yeah, yeah, by Danny L. Ross. Really good guy. Um, but prepare, prepare yourself, and really, really just ask yourself, why is this self-doubt present?
Hmm.
Because self-doubt is not necessarily terrible. It's a signal that says, I might need to do something else. I might need to do more,
Yeah.
you know. So
That's good. That's good. I like how you were saying we fight off those emotions without really understanding why they're present.
mhm,
And that self-doubt isn't always a bad indication. It's really a moment for us to stop and pause and analyze,
mhm.
and we should move forward with preparation. That's so good. You better speak. That's so good. Well, you guys, so I have Cortez's information going across the bottom of the screen.
Mhm.
In the event that you want to connect with him, his office, his company, take down his information. And so, Cortez, if you want to kind of maybe, I guess, recap a little bit and then pray for those who are dealing with self doubt and overcoming that.
Yeah. The best way to reach me, I see the information on the screen, is by email.
Uh-huh.
Because it can be a lot with phone calls.
Oh, yes.
So the best way to reach me is by email. It gives me a signal to, respond to you, or anything like that. But just to recap, I mean, just if you're overcoming self-doubt, and we didn't talk about it, and I don't want to open it up too more to anything else, but sometimes that self-doubt comes from this place of trying to be perfect, to appear
Mhm,
perfect for others.
mhm.
And we oftentimes have put this weight on ourselves that nobody else has given to us.
Wow, that's
Um,
good.
and what happens is we're not living our authentic us because we're living for this like performative type mode that we
Mm,
have to be perfect, that we always have to be on, and we have to have people, especially for men. We don't talk about this as men.
mhm,
When I talk to black women and things like that, they are always saying they always have to be on. They have a lot on their plate, especially if they're mothers, especially if they have things, a lot of things going on in their lives. But what we're doing is we're going into performative mode. And
yeah,
so our self-doubt sometimes can be related to us just trying to keep up that performative mode.
mhm,
And instead of saying, you take me as I am,
mhm,
you know. And so part of that is that, that's what I've learned. But key takeaways is self-doubt is an indicator that we need to start analyzing some things around us.
mhm.
Because we assume self-doubt can be a bad thing, but you know, if you're in a terrible relationship and you say, do I really belong here?
Mm.
That analyzation might be like, no, run, player, go, get out, you know. But we never, if we don't offer that place to explore why it's there instead of just pushing it off,
Mhm.
we'll never go to a place of growth because
Wow,
we've never confronted why these emotions are there. All we did is bury them.
yeah. Wow. My God.
So
Phew. That's so good. That's so good. Well, you wanna say a prayer for those that, are dealing with.
sure, God, we come to you right now. We want to just thank you for who you are. And we want to thank you for the people that you're, giving them the spirit to analyze self-doubt. We're giving them the spirit to grow from where they are now to where they are going. We want to make sure that you're blessing them
Yeah,
tenfold and abundantly. We
yeah.
come to you. We ask you these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen,
Start
amen.
to the point.
Yes, hey, that's how we do. That's how we do. Thank you so much, bro. Like this was awesome, very insightful. People in the comments, Donald says some great insight. Shirley said great info. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
for having
on.
me.
And Johanna says thank you for this.
Hi, Johanna. I don't know
Yeah.
Johanna, but hey.
Yeah, so but thank you so much for being honest and open and sharing your story on today. We're gonna get out of here, you guys. Tomorrow, same time, 12:30, we have Mark and Melissa Donwa, and they are going to share about overcoming struggles in the marriage. And so, looking forward to that. Looking forward to hearing their story. They're going to share how they came together and some of the things that they had to overcome. in that, getting rid of a lot of the past baggage and things like that. So I'm really interested to hear their story. So
That's
single
intense.
people, huh?
I'm gonna tune into that one. That's
Yes, yes. Single people you can watch too, because I'm telling you, there's going to be so many nuggets that they're going to drop to help those of us who are not married when the time does come. And so, looking forward to that. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys on tomorrow. Thank you so much again, Cortez.
all right. Thank you.
All right.